Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of Star Sound Speaks. This is your host, Irliana Samsara from Star Sound Astrology. We are so delighted because Ari Moshe Wolfe is back, Heart and Soul-Centered Astrology. Hello, welcome back, Ari.
Hey, Liana. Good to
It's
be
great
here.
to see you again. You always give me such hope and it calms me because we go to such heights. The work that you're doing with evolutionary astrology is just is such a healing balm for the times we're in. So just wanted to share that with you.
Thank you.
Before we get started, I want to just share with everybody. I don't know if you haven't been to Ari's website, it's arimoshewolfe.com. Let me just share you the screen because he's got a very exciting program here. It's a complete training program, and it's really awesome. He's got weekly, you go at your own pace. They're recorded videos, but then you have office hours with Ari. So whatever level you're working at, he will meet you there. So I love that. I think this is brilliant, Ari. Great contribution to the
Thanks so
community.
much.
You can come, people can come and join anytime. There's no set date, right?
That's right. Yeah. And the office hours begin in March. So if you join, you'll have some time before that begins as well.
Awesome. So in this video, we're going to cover Pluto through all 12 signs and what that would
Yes.
look like in terms of our soul's evolution. So get ready, grab your paper and pen or thumb, Gen Z. We're going to get into some deep stuff here. Before we do, we're just going to address what's happening right now. So right now we have, as we speak, the sun is conjoined Pluto in a cazimi, which means it's Pluto and the sun are aligned. Pluto is being refined by the fires of the sun. It's getting like cleansed and reprogrammed. And that is going to happen. But what's so interesting is that it's not only happening at this karmic degree, end of an era, but it's also moving into zero Aquarius. So I just wonder if you could just take a few minutes to what that represents for you.
What year did you say was the last year that this happened?
The last time this happened, where the sun was conjunct Pluto at 29 degrees 59 minutes, was 551 AD.
Interesting. I want to find the date, but I recall, if I'm not mistaken, that century was, according to Sri Yukteswar, the the very sort of the apex, like the very bottom of the Kali Yuga, which is like
Oh,
the dark age,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then we began moving up the arc, and then we actually entered the next age during the Renaissance,
Okay.
over 1,000 years later. But that was sort of like the height of the Dark Ages according to the 24,000 year cycle. Be cool to find out when that date was according to his counting.
Unfortunately, I didn't find it. Something about the breaking up of the Roman Empire into East and West Roman Empire happening around that time. That gives me hope to say that, well, that was the bottom of the Dark Age. And so we're technically on the way up. I'm understanding you correctly?
Oh yeah, sure. Like within the in that whole cosmology, there's a 24,000 year cycle with two arcs of 12,000 years downward and then 12,000 years upward. And so, according to most counts, and I follow mostly Sri Yukteswar's, that's where I learned this from. Um, we're in the up, so we're in that 12,000 year up cycle, but we only began that up cycle at around 500 something, um, you know,
Mm,
BCE or however you say it, like 1,500 years ago. And then
okay,
we, within those up cycles, there are different ages. So
right.
using the Greek, there's the Bronze Age, or Iron Age, Silver Age, Golden Age, right? So we're coming from the Iron, and now we're currently in the Bronze, and the next is Silver, and the next is Gold, and it's a good another 10,000 years until we reach the height of the Golden Age. So just imagine the arc of human evolution that we've yet to see, and we're only just getting started. I mean, that's an Aquarius topic we can go on
Sure.
forever. It's fascinating to me.
Yeah, yeah. Fascinating stuff. All right. So yeah, the whole movement from 2959 to zero. Oh, just to say, in case anyone's not familiar with who Sri Yukteswar is, he was Yogananda's guru, Paramahansa Yogananda, who wrote Autobiography of a Yogi, of course, one of the great saints of the 20th century, both of them. So there's that in case People need to know that. And then the other thing is that 29 degrees of, but a different minute of Capricorn, where the sun was in this cazimi, that happened at other critical points in history. One of them was 1532, which is when Henry VIII was told that you cannot marry that girl, Anne Boleyn. And he's like, thank you for sharing. And he started his own church. This breakdown where the Catholic Church had been so enmeshed in religion and government were enmeshed. And of course, there was this big upheaval, this huge paradigm shift that said, okay, there's the end of that. So we see this in the collective, with government systems and all that have been long breaking down. I don't know if you saw this in the news, but there was a woman she was just elected, and she's the youngest MP in New Zealand in 170 years. This is so like Pluto 29 Capricorn. In her inaugural speech the other day, she's Maori, and she gave
Wow.
her speech, and she did a haka. You ever see those people that it's a war cry with the tribes, and usually it's like men, and then and there's ho ho, and their hand movement and their eyes, and there's all this incredible energy transmission. And she gave that, and because she's really standing for resurrecting and preserving the ancient indigenous cultures and languages. This is a
Um,
really big thing about her.
mm.
And so I just thought, wow, that's what a moment, and what that speaks to. Anyway, all right. I want to hear from you. Enough from me.
So it's culminative. It's so descriptive. The fact that the sun won't, I mean, Pluto will go back into Capricorn for a little bit later this year. But the fact that Pluto and the sun are joining now, the sun energizes and gives life and creative force. So it's sort of just elicitive of such a sense of completion. Capricorn does induce this deep sense of reflection, contemplation. What am I creating? What am I building? What's going on long term? But when we transition into Aquarius, we don't plan for it. There's no introspection in Aquarius. There's no conditioning. We're not developing habits. We're not disciplining ourselves. Aquarius is the unconditioned. And I think this really highlights for us personally and collectively how there is always going to be a paradigm shift, truly beyond the dualities and the construct we're just so familiar with. Um, any part of our life, you take any category or dimension of our human life, there's the things that we know, the paths that we know. And I think this is highlighting this imminent sense of this is going to have to change. This is definitely going to have to change. And that might be hard. There might be a deep sense of, I don't want it to change. Or, really, especially with Mars right now in Capricorn, there can be the sense of, I failed. I didn't make it work. Or this is not happening the way I wanted to, or the way I thought it should be, or I'm not where I want to be. We fail to recognize that our planning and our efforts to grow and evolve and succeed and make things work are coming from our personal story of how we think things are supposed to go in the first place. It's like, try practicing guitar in a room where there's no acoustics, and the heat's on really high, and you have nowhere to sit. It's just this trying to grow and evolve and develop our creativity, but being very much limited and confined by these boxes that we just assume are a part of the program. So I think Capricorn is saying there's so much more that is Aquarius is saying there's so much more yet to unfold, and you can't understand that because you know not how conditioned you are. So it might feel like we're letting something go, bringing something to an end, and that, and in various ways that can be met with a lot of grief and strife and confusion. And not to say, you mentioned Saturn, and in the rulership that I work with, Saturn's a ruler of Capricorn, Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius. So they're both activated because we have that transitional point. Saturn's in Pisces, balsamic to Neptune, completing with Neptune. So there's so much ending, there's so much closure over these next couple of years. It's very palpable in the chart, in the transits. So that's a basic reflection on this transition.
I like that. Yeah, Saturn is balsamic to Neptune. So the cazimi opportunity, this reprogramming and realizations, and then how it goes into Aquarius. Now, of course, Pluto is going to be there for the next month. So before we get into all the 12 houses of the zodiac, I just wanted to say that, that critical 0 degree is where it's like the movie trailer. We're going to get a sense of the entire potential of how this can play out, the good, the bad, and the ugly for the next 20 years in this sign. So what would you recommend that we reflect on at that 0 degree?
Hmm. Well, let's note that it's moving the quickest that it moves, right? That joining with the sun is the most charged and active and quick. So Pluto never covers a lot of ground, but when it does cover ground, it'll move through a degree quicker. So it's going to spend maybe a month or so at 0, but it's moving quickly. So I think you can sort of apply this Leonian energy to it. It's engaged, it's visceral, it's alive, it's just active. It's not like hovering like it does when it stations, right? It's like when it stations, it's brooding. It's like, let's go here. It's like I'm here and I got things to do, right? So it's more engaging and there's a lot of activity. And of course, it's going to go back to that 0 point 2 more times after this one. So it's initiating something completely new. It's starting us off. It's very clear with the transits that there's a lot of energy, a lot of activity, and a lot of new movement, and it's very, very unclear. I mean, I can't really emphasize enough how those two statements. It's very palpably a new experience, and there can be a sense of terror or fear with that because we're looking at everything we've known and we're so afraid of what might happen. We're so afraid of what's going to go bad, and we could interpret the dream symbols and the archetypes and just kind of say, oh, we just need to make sure we're keeping our mind clear in terms of like, what is it inviting of us? I don't know. For me, I'm always renewing. I stray for a bit and then come back, as I think we all do, renewing my devotion to what's most important.
Mm.
And Pluto always points to, and this is what we'll look at when we look at it through the houses. This will be fun. Pluto always points to the nature of desire, and we have to understand like Pluto is not just intensity or death or it's like what is this? What does that mean? Like what's that really about? We're always going to face our deepest psychological limitations, where we're holding on because if I let go, I won't have fundamental security. And in that same sense, where we believe I need something, right? There's such a strong craving and aversion quality to Pluto, but underneath that is a greater dimension of our eternal soul power. We're learning to ground ourselves in a power and a security that doesn't come or go. That's what Pluto's all about. But it's all about elimination. Even if we're like, I'm gonna do something new and become an astrologer or quit my job and travel the world. Even there's like this liberating realization of, oh, there's a lot more space in this world for me than I realized. And we kind of break out of the guilt or the shame or the fear of the conditioning from Capricorn. Even so, it's still an elimination process because every experience is going to come and it's going to teach us something, interact with us, and then it's going to go. It's a constant evolutionary process of finding out what's fundamentally inside. So I think renewing and reconnecting with who am I? Like, what am I really all about? Like, what's really true and of essence for me when all that other conditioning and confusion, like, and I'll say this one last point. We all have our vibration. Like, Aquarius is our unique vibration. And accessing that vibration isn't like an intellectual thing. It's not, it's not a thing you figure out or you don't get told by it by someone. It's just your vibration. So it's a matter of not conflicting it, not contradicting your own vibration by adding a whole lot of conditioning to it. So there's something about getting connected to our own vibration and not being afraid of that because it may not be what we thought. Our beingness moving and dancing through this world may not look and the forms may not be what we thought, but this is calling us to just explore it more, trust it more.
Nice. Yeah. And the part about, I'm just taking this from Jeffrey Wolf Green's book, Pluto: Evolutionary Journey of the Soul. So if anybody's interested, this is one of the big source code that Ari works with in his heart and soul centered astrology. But anyway, what I love what Jeff says about this, the polarity point being Leo, the evolutionary intent for Pluto and Aquarius is one wherein the individual must learn how to take charge of his or her own destiny. They
Mhm.
must learn how to implement ideas about themselves, about that which they see as possible for their lives, the goals they want to accomplish, and ideas pertaining to future possibilities. And the other thing I like here is when he says the current evolutionary intent is teaching people to translate their ideas into action by, again, taking charge of their own destiny. This is a very strong point that he makes, and shape it along the lines that these thoughts are suggesting to them. In order to do this, we have to learn to minimize our security needs and patterns of depending on others to tell them what it is, or that it is okay to do whatever it is they want to do.
Right.
So therein lies, like you said earlier, the freedom.
Yeah, yeah. So the attachments of Pluto and Aquarius, we'll see, has a lot to do with peer group. If I am myself, will I belong? Will I fit into my relationship, family, job, community, church, organization, golf club? It's always about the contrast between my vibration and how we suppress it because we don't want to find out that we're different or that we don't belong or things will fall apart. But this is where, with that liberating impulse, when we're not concerned, when we're willing to let go, Pluto, of any external dependency on belonging, on what other people think of us, then we can just be true to and so that's that polarity point. I'm true to my own vibration. I'm proud of what I am. I'm embodying, claiming the uniqueness of my personal beingness instead of just trying to belong or fit into something outside of myself.
Yeah, and I think in finishing up that thought, because I do want to move into the houses, is it's interesting to see that over this course of time in the next 20 years, the whole idea of, Pluto will route out if you're not in the right tribe, if you're not living authentically, it's going to show us that. And it could be that we change tribes, whether that's political tribe or religious or cultural or whatever, spiritual tribe, that it's about, it's the wrecking ball that's going to show us that shadow of where we have not been authentic, and
Mhm.
living that and having our tribe represent and support our uniqueness. That's just what comes up for me. So
That's beautiful. I would even add to that, thinking about, Saturn and Uranus, they're in the last quarter phase. They'll be closing in on each other over the next several years. I would say there's even this dimension of I don't even know what my tribe is anymore, right? Because all of there's this tribe, there's that ideology, there's that political group. It's all getting mixed up. What was liberal might actually be more conservative, and what was conservative might be more liberal, and it's hard to judge what's what or who's who. Um, I think there's a natural mixing up of all of the sects and ideologies and groups that we form that say this isn't what I stand for. Like that becomes, it's so funny because that becomes its own accidental crystallization, and it becomes Capricorn again.
right,
Capricorn is a master, and it's meant to be about crystallization and structure and
Capricorn.
definition and the rules, because you got to cross the light and make sure you're not going to get hit by a car and all of that, um, and discipline. But Aquarius easily becomes that the moment we say, this is who I define myself by this group. Well, there's no longer any freedom in that. So
Right.
there's that movement right now of maybe people being disorganized and kind of confused and bewildered. It's like, where do I belong and who belongs with me? Because we have to look inside and starting there, not
Yeah.
looking for the right meetup group to join necessarily. Meetup
Right.
group is like very outdated, but you get the idea.
You're right. The cosmic meetup group. Cool. Thank you. That's awesome. Well, okay. Pluto in Aquarius through the houses. First
Let's do it.
house. Five,
Okay.
4, 3, 2, 1.
All
What?
right, and let's make this conversational and see what arises. Okay, so I'll
Okay.
give a couple introductory remarks.
Okay.
So like I personally work with a porphyry house system. Others might work with a whole sign. So for those that are doing whole sign, great. You know, this is going to be very direct.
Yeah, we'll make it
Pluto's
easy.
entering in. What's that?
Well, makes it easy.
Makes it easy, right? So we got that, but let's say you don't. Let's say you're like myself, and you know you have, let's say, a Capricorn rising,
Mhm.
26 degrees Capricorn rising, but then Pluto is already in your first house, but now it's entering Aquarius. So we're going to be acknowledging um, that transitional energy. Pluto can be in Aquarius in your first house, even if that house, or in any house, even if it's ruled by the prior sign. So I want to say, as a starting point, some of us might actually have houses that begin at 0 Aquarius, you know, except for those who are doing whole sign. All of them do. For most of us in non-whole sign or orientations, Pluto is going to be moving into a sign that starts with Capricorn. Like for me, my fifth house begins at 20 degrees Capricorn. Pluto is still in my fifth house, but moving into Aquarius. So from that perspective, we're looking at a transitional energy. The house itself being defined by Capricorn is going to say this is an area of life that is bringing forth discipline, definition, thoughtfulness. We're growing and developing ourselves over time. That's implicit to whatever is happening with Capricorn, right? But the movement into Aquarius says now we're needing to liberate and break out of the conditioning and the structures that are simply not necessary for truly what we're here to do. So there can be that sense of stress and anxiety. Right? And for everyone, Pluto in Aquarius is coming, objectively speaking, after everyone's Capricorn. So that sense of anxiety, I am to look upon whatever house this is with a new lens.
Mm,
I am to look at it not according to what I've known, and it's not negating or denying. I'm not throwing my business out of the window. I'm
right.
still branding and marketing myself Pluto, you know, Capricorn in the fifth, but Aquarius, but there's a new way to do it. There's a way to do it that allows you to embrace the Capricorn discipline dimension and the work you're here to do, but without pushing down and sublimating your individuality. So
Right.
there's looking at it, and I'll give an example for myself just because it's here. So we're gonna start this on the fifth house.
Okay, that's
That's
cool.
where we're starting because that's where my mind is.
Okay,
Um, it's a circle. So for
exactly.
all of you that are,
Saturn's
it's
in
a
Pisces is nonlinear. It's okay.
we'll have the time
Okay to
signature
start.
too. So um, you know, I have my training program, and it's my fourth year doing this, and all of a sudden, a friend of mine from Israel, Mira, she offered to work with me, and she took my training program landing page and completely upgraded it. And it was an Aquarian experience. Like I couldn't have done what she did. It wasn't within my mind. I didn't have thoughts for it. And at first it was uncomfortable. And then I looked at it, and the more I looked at it, the more I felt, oh, this just clarified everything. You know? So all the things that I've known just got clarified. And so it took me out of the box of the security of how I've presented myself. And it says, what is it like to present yourself, to actualize yourself according to your unique nature? And the teaching that I would offer with Aquarius fifth house is you can't self actualize and look at yourself at the same time. If there's too much self consciousness about it, then there isn't freedom to just experience by the seat of your pants something new that you've never done. Will people like it? Now, this is helpful as I'm saying it out loud. Will people like it? Will they be responsive to it? Am I going to get off, will people follow it? That energy is fundamentally incompatible with the necessary objectivity needed to just create. That experience of creation has to be free and complete and released in each moment. And then the fruits of that will be just experiencing where the next moment takes us and whoever comes and whoever, right? But to be overly concerned with how it looks is to impede upon and suppress the freedom that's needed here. So I would say Aquarius in the fifth house is about freeing one's creative essence and liberating from the old boxes of how I've known myself to actualize and express my own creativity. When we look through this, we have to address the two Pluto dimensions that are necessary. Because what I just spoke about is Pluto, is Aquarius fifth house in general. Pluto is going to point to our deepest fears, our deepest fears, our deepest attachments, what we're afraid of, what we don't want to let go of.
What we don't want to let go of,
And so this can be a sense of I don't want to make myself different. There can be an understanding this in everyone's chart. I would say look at your natal Uranus and also transiting Uranus to really understand what's that liberation impulse that's really emerging and opening up right now.
Which is really exciting this year because with the
Yeah.
confluence of Jupiter and Uranus, the Uranus being, like Ari was saying, the modern ruler of Aquarius, Saturn is the traditional ruler. But that confluence, it's building already, but we'll really feel it end of March. But April 20th is, it's funny, isn't it fun? 420, the universe has
Yeah.
it's a cosmic joke.
At least if you're not living in Australia, but yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's 421 for them, but yeah.
Oh yeah. So anyway, all right. So that's Aquarius. That's the Aquarian energy in Pluto in the fifth
Yeah,
house.
so the core attachment is I don't want to be different. Fifth house Aquarius Pluto. I don't want to be embarrassed. Everyone's gonna, or I'm not gonna. I'm gonna be an outsider here. I'm gonna be so different, and no one's gonna like me. All of those energetics that correspond to the vulnerability and the fear of really being seen. And so that Pluto Aquarius fifth house is stand in your own vibration, let what comes to come, let what goes go, and just walk that path. See where it takes you.
Yeah, I love it.
Would you add anything to that?
Yeah, I'm ruminating with this, especially the part about not like your tribe, your tribe will either get you or won't get you. And I think with having Pluto having left Capricorn, we're looking at the structures of our tribe or our family dynamics and our roots, and then rolling over, passing the baton into this conversation. Yeah, I just feel there's a great liberation that's going to be coming, especially I think when Uranus and Taurus, I mean Jupiter and Uranus meet up, this liberating idea about the values that are important to me and how that will impact, fifth house matters, children, creativity, our love and romance, what are we in love with, and on a conceptual basis, not just the people who we love, but what are we having a love affair with? And this is just, I'm just riffing here, but I feel there's a lot of once we get to move through that shadow part and we have this cathartic, it will bring cathartic, often explosive realizations around our mind, about the ways we think, right? Air sign Aquarius. But once we do that, I think there's treasures. Like Pluto is also not just showing the shadow, but the treasures that are available to us underneath once we get past the fear of letting go. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes any sense.
That's great. That brings up for me also the courage to just completely reinvent oneself, do something new.
Yeah.
Um,
Radically reinvent, right?
yeah, it's like,
Aquarius,
there's this creative calling that I've had, and this is what I want to give my attention to.
outside the
And
box.
it's like, I don't know where it's gonna go. And it's like, yes, you don't know where it's gonna go.
And
Yeah.
there's no rule book or playbook. Like
Yeah,
there,
never with Aquarius. No rule book, none.
no rule book, baby. This art house of yours, and if you're looking at that it could be, if you're using whole sign houses, that would be Libra rising, this conversation. But yes, very, very powerful. So okay, what about you want to do sixth house? Do you want to
Sure.
do linear now?
Yeah, or we could we
Yeah,
can
for
find an
you.
aspect pattern. We can follow the pattern of the septile. Um,
Right.
okay, so yeah, sixth house.
Okay.
Um, Sixth house corresponds to areas of self-improvement. And we're always refining and developing ourselves and cultivating more mastery over whatever we're doing and cultivating and grooming every day, even if it's like doing the dishes. And the issue is that can become a depressing rut of just boredom, busy work, the paperwork, the dishes, the things you do, the body, the task, the chores. Um, Discipline and routine and practice, even spiritual practice, all of that can become too conditioned, where we just sort of feel like internally enslaved. In fact, a lot of souls with Capricorn in the sixth house might have some history in any kind of work or service or actual slavery or enslaved environment, where they have to just continually work hard and maybe developing a lot of strength and skill and capacity, but there's so much harshness and a sense of I'm going to be punished, or I'm not good enough, I have to work harder to be better. All this heaviness. So Pluto in Aquarius comes along and brings up our attachment and our guilt and our shame and our fear and our perfectionism, and says you have to be willing to let go of that and find a new way. There's a better, simpler, clearer, more evolved, and more intelligent way to do your work in the world, to take care of your body, to wash the dishes. You know,
Yeah.
when I was a little boy, and I'm making this up, my father yelled at me and said, "This is how you do the dishes." So we had this ingrained pattern. And whenever I do the dishes, I make sure I do it just right. And then it's like this little inflection, right? Inflection, just to shift our mind a little bit away from that and realize I don't have to do it that way. And suddenly you realize a completely different system that's actually better. It's
Right.
actually
It's not
easier.
based
It
on
makes more
asking
sense.
the
So it's like, a,
approval of others either. And it's like,
yeah,
it
yeah,
doesn't matter whether you like this new way or not. It's me authentically.
yeah. The shift from Capricorn to Aquarius is I don't care what the boss says,
Right.
or that external projection of authority that we're so consumed by. Aquarius
Right.
is
The
always
sixth
going to
house
show
is
higher intelligence. The
go ahead.
intelligence is going to say, when I'm thinking at a higher level of consciousness, I see new possibilities. So whenever we have an Aquarian experience, it's always going to say, when we let go of our Pluto attachment and our fixations, we're going to see possibilities that literally didn't exist in our reality until that moment. So it's new systems, new ways of organizing, new ways of eating and health and diet and practice and just and then, like you were saying before, like we come into tribe, we'll find communities of people that are talking about these systems or these health practices that I'm like, oh my God, this is the thing I want to do and learn and practice. And it just makes so much sense.
Yeah. It's funny, it's interesting, because this house does rule employees, like being an employee or having employees in the workplace, one's daily work, as well as like what Ari was saying about the routine, like washing the dishes. And it's funny because in ancient astrology, they used to say that this house it ruled slavery because, back then, people had slaves. So I would say, I would call this is the Emancipation Proclamation
Oh, well said. Beautiful.
where it occurs. Yeah,
Wow. Beautiful.
Emancipation Proclamation. So now if we go to the seventh house, then
Talking about emancipation. Yeah.
yeah, that's juicy.
I don't have to be who I think you think I want me to be. Um, Everything that I've agreed upon, the precedent, the structures of relationship that are conditioned by the gender and social norms, or just like what it's supposed to be, how it's supposed to look. You know what I'm saying? Like all of the conditioning that we're just so familiar with says intimacy and the meeting with another person is just beyond that. Like the present meeting of another is just beyond all of the this is how it should be. So of course there can be many extensions. Capricorn seventh house, Aquarius seventh house can be, let's say you're in an existing partnership, there's a complete radicalization of that partnership where the mind opens to recognize the nature of relationship isn't dependent upon a form. It's dependent upon the mutuality of two souls sharing and meeting and shared agency. And they get to decide and choose what the forms are, but they're not defined by the forms. That again opens up all kinds of possibilities that you can't really see when it's like, I need you to do this for me. I actually had a cool dream where I was told Jason Alexander from Seinfeld
Seinfeld,
was
yeah.
the person in the dream, which is very odd to me.
What does
Um,
he represent for you?
I don't know. I mean, I have to watch some Seinfeld episodes and see what George represents. I mean, he was an interesting guy, but he just says in the dream, um, the most radical form or expression of relationship is one where neither takes responsibility for the other person's feelings.
For the other person's feelings, you said?
Feelings, yeah. And it's kind
Wow.
of the opposite of what we often think. Like, oh, you're having a bad day. What can I do for you, right? And we think if we have to absorb the other person's feelings, or in the general codependency model, um, they're not pleased with me, or I don't. The way they're feeling about what I'm doing is bothering me, and I have to deal with it. It's either a conversation to have, or I have to change myself. But what if I'm not responsible for your feelings, and you can have feelings? Oh, whew.
How liberating would
What?
that be?
How? If we can just do that. So that's freedom, because it says I just respect your journey, and what you're feeling has nothing to do with what we're choosing to create and do. They're two different things that have their own they can be both dealt with and experienced and explored in different ways.
And that's a radical new paradigm being introduced, life-changing for how we relate to others, how
Yeah,
the very nature of relationships and what it means to be in a relationship. It's just
yeah,
all getting so radically upended from the past.
so much so. And it's helpful to appreciate that, like when we look through the houses, there's a natural like aspect pattern in all of these combinations. So Capricorn 7th house is a natural Libra Capricorn square, and that square sort of um, elicits that sense of tension between um, all the things that we've learned about how it's supposed to be in regards to relationships, right? So then Aquarius is a trine. It's saying there's more freedom there. It's more possibility here.
Yeah. Especially, I'm thinking about the Pluto and Libra generation, which is around, what, 1970, was it? 6970?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The
Yeah,
early
yeah.
80s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The early
Late 60s, early 80s, I think. Yeah.
early Pluto and Libra, yeah, will be very much impacted. All
Hmm.
right. What about eighth house? Let's,
Okay. Now let's skip the 8th house. Let's not do that today.
oh, okay.
I'm just joking. I'm
You're
just
right.
joking.
Whoa, the eighth house.
Um, there are some people with Aquarius in the 8th house that just need to know, because everything's falling apart right now. Um, so 8th house is the house that corresponds to fundamental permeating change. We get divorced and we get married. What that symbolizes is how we come into relationship with experience in order to osmose from that experience more self-knowledge. We merge and unify with people, place, things, experience, objects, desires, goals, whatever, in order to become someone new on the other end. And the point is becoming someone new. It's DNA, it's transmutational. I do not want to be the same person on the other end of that. And so the issue within the 8th house can be the psychology of entrapment. Entrapment is I have lost my soul to the thing that I've committed to. I have lost my soul to the work or the job or the purpose that I've defined or the relationship. And instead of growing and forming intimacy with my own eternal being, I'm stuck in a dependency on this external object focus. And so it can show up in whatever areas of life this is showing up, but it fundamentally says this is about staying grounded and true to our own vibration, our own essence, regardless of the comings and goings. So what can be happening with this is there can be a strong sense of something being taken away from me right now, right? Or receiving a lot of projections or a perception of persecution or loss, or horrible, difficult endings, strong feelings of victimization. And it's all pointing to where we've invested our own security and belonging in the external world. And relative to Capricorn, perhaps there's a strong sense of this is how it is. I'm defined by this.
Right. This is
Let
the
me
way it's
find the
been
right.
done.
This is the way it's been done, and let me find the right word for this. There's an underlying sense of guilt or shame that says, well, I fundamentally deserve, like I can't get what I want anyway, or I deserve this, or it's inherently complex. I have to hold on to my See, Capricorn will keep us in the struggle because of our judgments. You did that to me, and I'm gonna do that to you. You deserve punishment. You took this from me. I agreed, but you betrayed my trust. Like all of these, like deeper, right? Whether it's personal or like in a larger social sense. Aquarius says you can let go of that and let go of the fighting, let go of the judgment, let go of the struggle, let go of all of the tension and the pain, and just be true to who you are. Allow what comes to come and allow what goes to go. Uh, to see, this is a Ramana Maharshi quote, see what remains when we stop interfering with the unfolding. The Capricorn would have us say, but I'm so committed to this person, I can't let them go. Or I work so hard for this business, I can't believe I'm being undermined right now. Or my boss just fired me, I can't. Pluto says that was experience. Now this moment's a new one. And to be able to let go without the guilt or the shame or the holding on or it shouldn't be this way, and to really allow it all to be inside. Okay, all of this anger and fear or judgment or control or feeling really small or sublimated or controlled, all of that is happening inside of myself. I don't need to engage in the world. And so when we free ourselves up from the entanglement, it actually gives us more energy to realize more power and to say one day, I'm gonna do something completely different. I'm gonna take out a loan and start my own business, or I'm gonna experience a completely new dimension of freedom in my life that isn't dependent upon the fact of everything changing.
Mm. Yeah, it's a whole new mindset about when I think about eighth house shared resources, when you say about taking out a loan, it can on a mundane level, it can rule, loans, debts, and it's also not just physical debt, but it's like a soul debt of what we owe people or what they owe us. So there's this whole radical reimagining and a whole mindset that is a metamorphosis from deeply, from the inside out. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
And
beautiful.
similar to that seventh house dynamic, it's like we could have a total transformation of existing marriages or relationship structures where it becomes about a true meeting of souls, like a true intimacy. And there's a willingness to face greater discomfort, right? And that might mean the changing of the form, or it just might mean relationships move to a completely new dimension of intimacy and possibility because there's more capacity, more space now
North
to
Space.
really be seen, to really let it all go.
Yeah, think about Aquarius being an air sign, and it is. It's so much of it has to do with space and our mind and cultivating like opening our minds and giving ourselves that permission. And like Jeffrey was saying, you don't need the permission of someone else. It's just,
Right.
realizing that. So eighth
And
house is.
another thought that arises on that too, just thinking of the Leo second house polarity.
Mhm.
If you think of just like the idea of deeper spiritual relational practice and how we kind of we face our attachments and our fears of betrayal, our fears of loss, and Aquarius can be the subconscious memory of being suddenly left behind or being betrayed, being left, right? So it's almost
Abandonment
like
trauma. Yeah.
that exactly, yeah, abandonment trauma, and then being the one who abandons as well because of that protection and fear. That second house Leo is about I have to keep my heart open and be solid in my own being, because that otherwise I actually recreate that abandonment trauma. Even
Mm.
if it's not happening, the strength of that projection creates it. I experience it. So it's drawing us back to be stable, to love our own life, and not grab on so much. And that's sort of the paradox. That's how we can feel and experience deeper intimacy too.
I love it. Yeah. Eighth house, intimacy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. The shared resources where we merge with the cosmic infinite and where we're afraid to, and what that looks like when we transform that, we go beyond that fear and let go. Just let go. Oh my God, Pluto, please.